Welcome. Listen, I'm your girl, Dr. Roz, CEO and founder of the Village Leadership Group, LLC.
And y'all know who I am. I'm Coach Williams. I am the content supervisor for the Village, LLC. And we are excited, y'all. Y'all got to listen to this. Girl, do you want to tell me?
Today's show. Listen, y'all need to come on in, because we are saluting our Divine Nine educators. That's right. Those school leaders who are members of the Divine Nine. Now, I think, are we a member of the Divine Nine? I don't know.
It might be, just a little bit.
So listen, happy Founders Day to all of the amazing organizations who were founded in January, which includes Delta Sigma Theta Sorority
Incorporated.
But listen, we wanted to take this time to salute all of our Divine Nine organizations, because they're doing some amazing things.
Yes.
Especially our school leaders and administrators, teachers, staff members, all of them. Right. So, shout out to all D9 educators. Again, salute to you. So join the village. Join.
How can you hear something? I can't hear anything.
Out to everyone. Again.
I did.
Are we having technical issues?
I think we have a little bit of time. I think our panel is ready to come in.
So we're going to invite our school leaders to join us. So come on. We have members of the Divine Nine joining us. Come on and join. Welcome to the village.
They're coming in.
I cannot see.
Again, we have some amazing folks with us today. So I'm going to stop talking and go on mute so that our awesome school leaders, teachers, administrators can introduce themselves and tell us what organization they're representing. All right, we're going to start with Mr. Asa Daniels. Welcome to the village.
Thank you for inviting me. My name is Asa Daniels. I am a school administrator for Charles County Public Schools, and I'm at McDonough High School this year. And I'm on the back end of this. I'm a lot closer to retirement than I am to hopefully one day get up out of here and do this. But I'm a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, a member of Alpha Gamma Chapter, Virginia Union University. And I'm definitely happy to be here to listen to the wisdom and insight that the village has to offer.
All right. Well, welcome to the village. And we'll, keep it going with our Kappas. And we have a village elder. He's definitely not a stranger. Mr. Mason, reintroduce yourself to the village.
How's it going, everybody in the village? My name is Sean Mason. I'm a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Can you hear me?
Yep. We can hear you. I think you're a little frozen. That's all right. Welcome back. He probably will be unfrozen in just a second. All right.
No worries.
Kristen and Cream love going. And introduce Dr. Jones, again, a village elder. Welcome back to the village, Dr. Jones.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tysana Jones. I am currently a special education teacher at Arlington Public Schools, also the founding board president of MindWorks Collaborative, as well as a leadership coach with MindWorks and, of course, the village. And I am a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
I love it. All right, we're going to move to Dr. Curtis. Welcome to the village. Unmute your mic.
Greetings, fratters and sorors and those persons that are not of the Divine Nine. My name is Dee Curtis, and I'm a journalism teacher on the middle school level. I will not say where I work because, Facebook is a funny thing, but I'm in the area. And Dr. Gaskins knows where to find me if you're looking for me. I also teach the precursor course before formal admittance into the teacher ed program, which is called the Bennett program at West Virginia University. So shout out to WVU and proud member. I'm not going to say how many years, but I joined when things were things. of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. I joined on the campus of Alabama A&M University. I won't say the year. Sigma Beta chapter, and I am now a proud member and have been for quite a while, and past president of Beta Zeta chapter in Washington, D.C.
Wow. Well, thank you for joining the village today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Dr. Gaskins, Miss Johnson said she couldn't hear and that she signed off. So I don't know if you want to.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll try again when she log back in. All right, thank you. Dr. Ryan, welcome to the village.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Dante Ryan. I am a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, initiated at Beta Alpha chapter at Morgan State University, where I received my bachelor's and my doctorate in engineering. My wife and I, we are the founders of the Ryan Institute. So we are an academic support company. We provide everything from one-on-one academic tutoring to test prep to group testing for students of all ages. So our youngest student is 2 years of age. Our older students are typically teachers that are looking to pass the praxis. And so we work with students of all age, in addition to providing professional development as well. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Welcome to the village. This is going to be good.
This is good.
Got
we got the variety. Now, I'm Dr. Ross, and I'm a member of the Fraternity Sorority Incorporated. I pledged in 97. I don't mind. This is my silver. I'm celebrating my silver Delta anniversary soon. So again, Alpha Gamma chapter at the Morgan State University. Y'all know I'm a proud Morganite. So big. And
so the village, you guys know that's my big sister. And of course, it was only right to follow in her footsteps.
Of course, you had no choice.
So I am also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I actually was initiated at Bennett College for Women, the Omicron Delta chapter, in 2008. So maybe not a baby, but a little younger than she is.
Yeah. So listen, we're gonna get right to it. So I would like to start by talking about the history of our organization, right? When you think about the 1900s, where many of our organizations were founded, in 1913, of course, for Delta. But think about what was going on then. So I want to, talk about the relevance of the setting, right? Our organization and the impact that our organizations had during that time period. So again, I'm going to pick with the baby of the bunch as far as being a part of the Divine Nine. So Dr. Jones, talk to us about, how important that time period was and why it was so important for these organizations to be, on our college campuses.
Yes, I'm the baby of the bunch. I just was initiated fall 2020, Baltimore Metropolitan Alumni Chapter. So I am the baby of the bunch. So, and I'm a history buff, so I'm such a nerd about this. So this makes me excited. So this is when I knew that Delta was where I needed to be as far as just the activism, because I'm definitely of the turning table of Jesus. That's my kind of Jesus. Flipping tables of Jesus. That's my dude, right? And so I'm about activism. I'm about just being active and advocating and making our community better. And Delta was like, listen, the sisters that were a part of the organization when they started off with AKAs, they said, wait a minute, we need to be a part of this movement. We can't vote. Women as a whole cannot vote. And so we knew that us being a part of this suffrage movement was not going to allow Black women to vote, but however, recognizing that there had to be movement and change. And so that's where we had to stop going from just participating in social activities and, things that were pretty and things that were helpful. And we were still very much about activism and scholarship, but it was more about scholarship and social versus the activism side. And that's where we had to split as far as moving from AKA to establishing Delta Sigma Theta, is moving into that activism piece. So yes, high scholarship, high achievement, but now we need to move into activism and really making a stride and making a change as far as what we need to do in being physically active in that process. And so the women of Delta Sigma Theta marched in the suffragette movement in the March 1913, and that was a huge split and change as far as what that meant for the organization as a whole. And so we're thinking about that time period. Black people, there were an elite bunch of Black people who were getting the education, who were doing amazing things, inventions and writing and just doing just amazing things, but it was a small group of people. Well, they all knew each other, right? So you have these Deltas marrying the Cap, just everybody was together. They were at Howard doing the right? And so now you have this small group of people who are moving out, and after they graduate, they move to other places and they continue moving their organizations as well as the community as a whole through the organization. So it's just organizing the educated Black people to then being able to make movements throughout the Black community.
Awesome. Now we got to start with Alpha Phi Alpha, right? Because they were the first fraternity. So, Dr. Ryan, tell us a little bit about the importance and the purpose of Alpha Phi Alpha.
Yeah, so, when I think about the time in which the organization was founded back in 1906, at Cornell University. So it's an Ivy League university. It's a predominantly white university. It's in Ithaca, New York. And I'm not sure if anyone has ever been to Ithaca, New York, but, there's not a lot of brown people there, right? And so you being at this institution, I can only imagine that our jewels were at that organization, looking for camaraderie among one another, looking for support from one another. And so as a result, they came together and say, hey, let's get together, let's put together a study organization in which we kind of keep each other, prepare for our classes, keep each other uplifted, and, kind of keep each other sharp as we matriculate through this institution, right? And so, I think, again, I wasn't there, of course, but just thinking about, what the time was during that time, and how important it was for them to establish an organization, a support group among one another, to really help each other matriculate through Cornell University. I think that, I realized that how, not just innovative, but also how mentally, how much mental fortitude, I know the ladies don't like that word, but how much mental fortitude they had to have in order to, really push forward as they continue to matriculate through Cornell University. And so, that's what I kind of think of, when it comes to the founding of our organization. I think initially did it to one beat of service to one another, right, as students of Cornell University. And then from there, they began to branch off and then really begin to help others outside of the organization as well. So.
Awesome. And then Mr. Daniels, next up. Can you hear me? All right.
I need to unmute myself. In the beginning, I guess with Cap Alpha Psi, and basically in the founding of the organization, and one of our key members, Elder Watson Diggs, he had what they say is a dream because he was a dreamer. He was an educator. And so the biggest thing in our fraternity, most of all, and you probably have heard it throughout the years, is achievement. And that is our goal, working with young men in the community and working with the community as a whole, and then moving in and out of education. One of the things that I have found in being in this trade, and I do say trade as because it is definitely what we all have incumbent upon, is that we as an organization come together and brothers come together with your back, so to speak, and, giving you knowledge and, being able to look up and pull from down and help brothers to achieve and go forward. So, this organization was started by an educator, and to be an education, to be a part of it is just I guess, living legacy, so to speak.
Love it. Living our legacy. Love it. And last but not least, Dr. Curtis. Unmute your mic.
Okay, one of the old heads of the bunch. I would be remiss if I did not say that I too am a legacy. My mother, the late Mary Curtis, was a life member and a powerful driving force within the sorority. And my father, the late Robert Curtis, also was a life member of Alpha Phi Alpha. And both were in Cleveland, Ohio. My brother is also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. So we like to phi in our family. So truly, Alpha Phi Alpha laid the blueprint for all of us. But Zeta Phi Beta, as you know, was founded in 1920, January 16th, 1920, on the campus of Howard University, and basically to foster the ideas of service, charitable endeavors, scholarship, civil and cultural endeavors, sisterhood, and the concept of finer womanhood. Our 5 founders were forces to be reckoned with in all areas of society, and particularly in education. And if you talk to like my dad used to always say, well, Zetas are known for being the smart girls on the campus. So when we're talking about academics and scholarship, I feel that I made the right choice. A lot of women paved the way for me, and a lot of the endeavors. I did not know Tizana was interested in Delta Sigma Theta, because truly I would have tried to get her for Zeta Phi Beta years ago. She saved my life. But bottom line is, we're about serving the community, and we're definitely about helping folks further their scholastic endeavors. We have National Education Foundation, where if you go on the national website, there are a multitude of opportunities for scholarships, not just for those that are graduating from high school, but those that are undergraduates, fraternal or sorority allegiance doesn't matter, as well as graduate opportunities.
Wow, awesome. So, Dr. Curtis kind of hinted to something, is that regardless, we're all about service and giving back and doing what we can to improve the environment of our people. And, I love it. I love it. And, people talk about, the Deltas don't like the AKAs and the AKAs don't like the Zetas or whatever. The Qs don't like the Alphas. But, that's like saying the Redskins don't like the Cowboys. But, we all come together, for the cause. So that's what I love, the sisterhood, the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the unity. That's what's needed, right? Especially now. So when we compare and contrast, we talk about our founders, and those of you who are just joining us, we are saluting our D9 school leaders and educators. The month of January is the month when we have so many organizations celebrating their Founders Day. So we're pausing to have a special discussion about our D9 school leaders, right? And giving them a special shout out. Come on, man. When we think about the history of our organizations and what was going on during that time, let's compare and contrast, right? So we have all the things that was happening back then, but have we really seen a difference when we think about the issues that we're facing now? So I'm going to start with Dr. Ryan. Thinking about the past to now, has much changed? Have we made any progress? We think about Dr. Martin Luther King, who was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and all that he fought for. Has much changed?
Well, I think there has been some significant changes, right? But there are still a lot of issues that we have yet to resolve, right? And at the end of the day, one of the things that I think we need to really think about is this. When we speak of unity, how selfless are we really willing to be, right? Because if we're talking about being, unified to kind of resolve some issues that are still taking place, it's really going to require a lot of selfless acts, meaning that we're not looking for any type of notoriety. We're not looking for any type of accolades. We're simply doing it because of our love for mankind, right? And so, I think there has been a lot of significance or a lot of changes that have taken place back then to now. I think about when my grandmother, for example, she went to Morgan. She graduated in 1952. She pledged AKA at Morgan in 1951. But she tells me about when she would come to school and things like she couldn't walk down Cold Spring Lane. Now, as a Morgan student in current ages, I would never thought about not being able to walk down Cold Spring Lane. That's a main road to Morgan State University. But when she was in school, she couldn't walk down Cold Spring Lane. Why is that? Because at that time, the white neighbors, they would call the police on the students going to Morgan, and saying they were trying to walk in their front yard or something like that. So they've been harassed just by simply walking to school, right? We think about Northwood, right? We know that Morgan was very instrumental in integrating the Northwood Shopping Center. Well, now Morgan is leading a whole effort to revamp Northwood Shopping Center, right? We think about, oftentimes, we hear about the Greensboro sit-ins, but not realizing that 5 years before the Greensboro sit-ins, students from Morgan was boycotting lunch counters at Reed Drugstore, right? And so, but we're not doing those things now. Right now, we don't have to do those things. Now we can walk in and we can get lunch wherever we want. We can walk down the street and not necessarily be harassed, by neighbors and so forth. So I think a lot has changed. We think about things like not being accepted to go or not being able to go to University of Maryland for law school, University of Maryland for medical school. Unfortunately, we just buried one of the brothers from Beta Alpha. His name was Lewis Randall. And he was one of the first students to be accepted to University of Maryland Medical School. All right. So a lot of things have changed, but on the same token, there's still a lot of issues that we have to fight and that we have to, really be together and unified as we try to overcome some of those things. And so I'm pretty sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's kind of where I stand, and that's my viewpoint. I think there has been a lot of change, but there's still a lot of issues that we need to address. And some of it is really internally. There's certain things that we need to address internally within our own communities before we even worried about, hey, what's going on here and what's going on there. So, and I'm sure, like I said, we'll talk about that later on in the program.
Definitely. Mr. Daniels. So earlier you talked about how, your founders were educators, and one of the goals was to help youth and Black men and the youth in the community. So how has that changed from then to now?
You know what? I think a lot has changed. And thinking about when the fraternity started and all of our organizations started in the early 1900s, we weren't but maybe, 35 years from the Civil War. Having received, quote unquote, I'm going to use that loosely, some form of freedoms. And then moving forward into, having a little bit of what we can consider our own. And so you had the communities and they stuck together. You can go down the streets and, if you did something like as a child, for an example, somebody be like, hey, you're not supposed to do that. And by the time you got home, maybe done told your folks and the whole community knew about it. So it truly was, it takes a village. So today we've kind of moved away from that to a degree. You say something else to someone else's child, you may run into some issues down the road. These organizations here that work with young men and young women try to bring them into a working framework. And I'm going to use that working framework to where we know what you're doing. We're trying to look at your best interest. We want to see how you move in the community. We want to work with you while you're in school. We want to groom you. We want to have you put your best foot forward. We talk about elocution and etiquette. Working with young men to actually see how they move with young women and how they move when it comes time to speak, when you're in front of a crowd, when you're standing up for yourself as a person when it comes time to interview for a job. So a lot has changed from how things used to be and what we were when these organizations first started to where we moved to organizations where, and looking at all of us, and I can say they're servant leaders in our community to make, our young people successful. I think that's why all of us might be in education today. I know that's why I am. So, moving forward, I would love to see our organizations come together under one greater umbrella and serve a greater purpose for education, because that's going to be the key to our success here in the future.
Exactly. Unity. Love it.
I wanted to jump in real quick because I want to hear from Dr. Curtis. She talked about how the Zeta women, the fire women, and I want to hear, what is your thoughts on then versus now? How have you all grown with education?
With regard to the 1920s until now?
Yeah, or give us anything, yes.
Well, I think not just specifically for Zeta, I think all of the women of the Divine Nine, the doors have opened some greatly. While we did have some pathfinders or some trailblazers, that in the 1920s and beyond were working for NASA or, involved in mathematics in the 40s, etc. But I'll tell anybody, when I was in school, the opportunities, like the majors, seemed a little bit limited because I went to a small school with a big college field. But for example, I majored in English. There weren't that many females on our campus that were majoring in engineering and computer science. They were few and far between. But if you look at now versus then, um, there's way more women, particularly Black women, that are making amazing strides in the area of the STEMs category. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is too, we still had to maintain, and when I say we, I mean Black women, still had to maintain the fight because the right to vote was ratified in 1920, but that didn't include us. We had to still fight a little longer to be able to vote. And even with that, there came a lot of hurdles. So when you talk about education and try to compare then and now, you can't do that without talking about how all the Greek women had to go into the communities and try to educate our sisters that were not Greek to what the issues were and why it was important to vote. And in certain regions of the country, as you know, Black people were receiving a hard way to go when it came time to vote. So, not like I said, not just the 1920s, even recently. You look at the state of Georgia. They got some things that they're trying to do to keep us from the polls. So that would be the best answer I would have for that question.
We have to keep fighting, and some of them like to fight. Dr. Jones. So you recently became a member of Delta Sigma Theta. So one of the things I want to compare then versus now is the importance of joining a great organization, and why people wanted to become a Delta or whatever, and is that something that's still happening today, and why? And some people think they're no longer relevant. It's no longer important to become Greek or to join an organization. And here you are, just you joined 2 years ago, well, almost 2 years ago. So I want to know, based on what you read about organizations, why did you join? Thinking about the history of the organization and seeing our impact now, what motivated you to join now?
So for me, it was a timing thing and it was a personality situation. And so when I speak about timing and history, again, I talked about I love history. So when it comes to the founders and who they were as individuals and then collectively making decisions, that vibration aligns with who I am and just who I am as a person, professionally and personally. As far as joining, I'm an only child. I've always wanted sisters and brothers. They will take me, right? So I'm a very communal person, just by nature. I'm an only child, but I'm a community baby. So Mr. Daniels talked about, someone doing something in the neighborhood, and before you get home, you might have got a spanking on the way there, and you get another one because everyone knew about it. I grew up in that kind of community, and my community is very much still the community I grew up in. And so I'm an auntie. I'm a village auntie. I believe in that being a part of making sure we're building upon that legacy of community and family. That is just a huge part of who I am. My church all the churches I've ever gone to are very much about groups and building family. And so with that being said, this was just another iteration. We talked about unity. I've always been someone saying, okay, can we get 5 things we all can agree upon so we can work towards it? And that's just been who I've been, again, since I was a child. I wrote a proposal in high school that Earl Graves got to read when I was at 100 Black Men's conference about collectively doing things. I met Dee through National Black Graduate Student Association. I am a community organizing person at a national level. That's who I am naturally. That's what I've been doing personally, professionally. This is just an extension of that. And so I believe that the work that I'm doing as Tysana Jones can be amplified by me connecting with a Dr. Gaskin, with a D, with I have Dr. Crystal Edwards, who's also just different women who are doing the work that I'm doing, but we can work and inform each other and build. I believe that this fits the organization. We're constantly building knowledge and we're growing our community. So that's why at this old stage of life, that this was still something that I can connect my horse to. It's a moving way. I'm doing the work. I've been doing the work for the last 20 plus years. And so how can my work then be amplified and pushed forward with other people who are also moving in the same direction? And so it's about garnering energy and motivating and pushing these things through so that we can get more done collectively.
I like what she's talking about with community. And I want to dig a little bit deeper because we're educators, right? So our immediate community that we're impacting is that education community, right? Now, I'm always the one who throws those questions out there. I have a challenge, and I'm going to go to Mr. Daniels first. Mr. Daniels, I want you to think of one issue in education now. But here's the caveat. Not only do I want you to give me the issue, but I also want you to give me a solution. Now, the solution, don't be telling me, oh, because of funding and all of that. I'm going to give you whatever money you need. I'm going to give you the staff you need. I'm going to give you the buses you need. You know we need some buses, right? But I'm going to give you everything now and something too. I'm going to give you everything. But think of that one issue in education, and what is that creative solution that you have or that you've been thinking of? You're like, man, I could do this if. So I want to hear from you. And everybody, I'm going to ask y'all the same question too.
Wow. You really just threw me right on out there, didn't you? If I had to think of one issue that I guess for me that will polarize all of this, and I don't think it specifically has anything to do with funding. I don't think it has anything specifically to do with something. Well, you could possibly throw money at it, but I will say this: the issue for me is appropriate parental support. And I say that with tongue in cheek because you have parents that want their child to receive the highest form of education in most public and or private school settings, but browbeaters, do a whole lot of other things to us. And I know you all have had parent-teacher conferences, there's teacher conferences, PTA meetings and everything to make sure that their child gets the best. When a lot of what I see and hear and understanding and what they do, it makes me kind of cringe some days because I believe there needs to be something said to appropriate parental support. And I guess if I had to give a working solution, the biggest thing is to make sure that parents understand how school and community works together and where they stand in the community and where we need the support from them and how their support should look when it comes to us. I mean, if anybody's ever watched a parent come to school and they're supposed to be volunteering for the greater good of whatever's happening in the school, but then they're just with their child instead of putting themselves out there. Or like we get certain helicopter parents or the constant complainer parent who doesn't come to work appropriately. So I believe there needs to be something that speaks to, and I'm gonna use this again, appropriate parental participation in schools and in the education process. That was my concern and problem, and hopefully that is a working solution.
And you know what? I like it because I ain't have to give you any funding.
It can be thrown at it, but it, you know, a lot of that is we as servant leaders. You know, you want to build your positive culture and climate in your school and community, and in doing so, you try to incorporate the loudest person in the community and get them to where they're working, to where they help you build. A little money doesn't help. I mean, a little money does help, so understand. But, you know, I think parents need real understanding of what it looks like to appropriately affect their child's education. So,
may I piggyback on what Dr. Daniels said?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I've had many jobs. My father used to say I'll be 90 before I can retire. He was wrong. I'm leaving in 5 years. But anyway, I used to be an education director at a Head Start agency in Washington, D.C. The things that Dr. Daniels has laid out as the premise of Head Start. Head Start is to give people a leg up and a leg over. Part of the program is to help the parents learn how to be parents, okay? And help, I know I have girlfriends who were a product of, being a parent, and they went to school and, eventually got hired by Head Start, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm a firm believer in parents as partners. You cannot, if any of our relatives are online listening now, as they've had children, and then, tomorrow's the first day of school, and I'm putting Nunu on the bus. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're going to walk Nunu into that school. The teacher will not have the time to hear all about, Nunu, but you introduce yourself to that teacher, introduce Nunu to the teacher, and let that teacher know that you are trusting her with the most valuable thing that you have. And also that you look forward to working with that teacher this year as Nunu progresses. And Dr. Gaston knows that we're right, because those parents that are partners, when there's a problem, and I'm not saying the parents of the partners, that their kids don't get into mischief, they do, but you're a little bit more apt to help find a solution to whatever it was, and a little less wanting to just kick them out the door or paper them to an alternative program than than those that just send their kids to school. And I'm glad this is called the village, but it does take a village. So if you can't be there, Mom, then can Grandma be there? Can Granddad be there, or Uncle Al from down the street, whomever? But we have to have all people. Parents are stakeholders, and somehow, some way, again, looking at Head Start, and I received my master's in child development from Michigan State, from the College of Human Ecology, and you have to look at the whole child. Did that child eat breakfast? Do they have a safe place? All of that goes together, and so we've got to have that in the schools. That's really good if you give me $1 million and I have computers for everybody and all that kind of stuff. That's nice. That's nice. But if that child doesn't have somebody in their corner, if we don't buy into what we do as a living, this is a calling. Yeah. So, you see on the news, if I turn on the news right now, they're going to talk about how many teachers have left education during this pandemic. You jump out, you jumping out because you weren't called. This is a calling I've tried to run from.
That was
say that again.
So this is a calling. I'm going to try not to have church in here, but it is a calling. And then you have to look at, somebody has to be in the classroom. You can't gain tenure and then jump out. See what I'm saying? You got to be proven for a little bit. You got to put in a little bit of time. Yeah. Like I said, I got 5 years left. I've been an assistant principal. I hated every day. Every day that I was there, I hated it. I was like,
we have some administrators.
I'm sorry, but that's just my personality. I didn't, I was selected for the program. And one thing about me, and I don't know if Tizana remembers this, if you tell me something about some free school or free training, I'm going to sign up. Lickety split. But the bottom line is, I don't want to hog your time. We have to have parents as partners, period.
Yes. See, Mr. Daniels will start.
I
know.
Mr. Daniels, that's my friend.
But listen, again, if you're just joining us, we are saluting our D9 educators, school leaders, all right? And I would like to pause and welcome Mr. Ron Jones. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Introduce yourself and tell us about your organization that you are representing. Are you muted? Can we hear you?
Can everybody hear me? Mic check.
Yeah, we hear you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. How are we? Pardon my tardy to the party. Unfortunately, I had fortunately, as we're talking about community, actually had a school and community council meeting that I had to facilitate that included in tonight's main point and purpose and invite was for our significant and influential men in our students' lives. We're not calling it fatherhood initiative. We're calling all fathers, grandfathers, uncles, cousins, brothers, whoever, whatever male influence that our students have, and we want them to be a presence in our building. So I did a presentation tonight to our significant men, and it's really an initiative that we at Propel, that's actually where I am an assistant principal, that we hope to really thrive and really gather our men so that we can change the narrative that our men are absent in our students' lives. So that is me. Again, I'm an assistant principal at Propel Homestead. I am also a proud man of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And I am someone that is about constant learning and educating our youth each and every day. So thank you. I appreciate you inviting me here tonight, and definitely looking forward to participating and engaging with you all.
Thank you so much for coming. And you already talked about a problem and a solution.
Right.
So you just jump right on in because you're actually doing the work right now.
Right.
You're not just talking about it, you're doing it. So kudos to you. Thank you, sir, for all that you're doing at your school and for making a difference. Thank you. So
Well, thank you.
All right. Ready?
You know what? I'm gonna kick it back to Sean, Mr. Mason. I want you to tell me one problem in education and one creative solution. And remember, nothing is any type of barrier. I got the money, I got the staff, I got the books, everything.
I think one problem in education is making it innovative and creative so that our children have that buy-in. And that's what I seek to do in my classroom every day. And it's funny that, we are talking about this because right now I'm not supposed to be in the classroom, but this year I have 21 kids. I have the largest classroom and only 5 of them are girls. So let's discuss that. And hold up, wait a minute. Are you ready for this kicker? 12 of them have IEPs.
Hold up, I just did
And
that.
wait, hold up, wait. I got some source for you. Wait a minute, hold up. And the special education teacher was taken out of the system due to our past mayor's mandate with COVID and all that. So guess what? Guess who's coming to the classroom every day?
That guy.
So what's your solution, sir, other than the fact that you're doing what you can do?
No, so that is the solution, to make things fun, make it creative, make it innovative, so that and have it to tie into real life. So that is taking everything and understanding that, especially in early education, that we have to go back to, especially those systems that have moved away from teaching our kids phonics, how to read, those basics, making sure, like, I pride myself as being a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, that my kids are participating in Room to Read. And that's one of our initiatives in which we make sure our kids have books in their home so that they can practice reading at home, and just making sure that there are no barriers. So whatever it is, if I have all the money, I'm gonna make sure that you have everything, all the tools and the skills necessary that you can be successful. And then I'm gonna show you how to use those tools and skills so that we can break chains and that we can make millionaires and billionaires, and we can then change the mindset of our kids.
I like that.
Love it.
Be a millionaire.
Dr. Ryan, same question. What problem are we solving?
Yeah, so actually, I'm going to take Mr. Daniels as well as Mr. Mason's, take both of their suggestions and kind of combine them. One of the things that I've always been kind of against is this. I've been against early exposure of STEM to students at elementary school. And the reason being is that I feel as though students, they don't have a good, strong foundation in the literacy and in the math department to really take advantage of what STEM can provide. So when we add in the fact that, hey, we have strong parental support the parents, and that support can come in many factors, right? What I mean by that is this, and I'll use myself as an example. My mom, she only had a high school diploma, all right? And even then she'll tell you that she kind of skated through high school to get that diploma, right? But for some reason, her son was able to go from a high school diploma to a PhD in engineering, without any student loans, may I add. I don't even know what the student loan process is, right? So, but I used my mom as a resource because even though my mom didn't have a college degree, she had a ton of wisdom. And one of her greatest wisdoms was that she was able to put me in places where I was able to take advantage of resources from other people, right? So she didn't have the resource, but she was able to put me in a place to take advantage of those resources, right? And one of the things my mom was really big on when I was younger was, listen, all of my homework got done. Made sure I was reading, made sure I do my multiplication facts, addition facts, and all those things of nature. So I had a strong foundation going into third grade, and after that, it just kind of took off. I just propelled and was able to do things that basically essentially get a PhD in engineering. So the problem for me is that I feel as though there is not enough parental support to help these teachers advance these students, in their early education years. Now, for me, I believe that every student should have an IEP. That's just me personally. Everyone learns differently. It's all of us on this call. Every last one of us learn differently, right? And so we can learn, how we grasp multiplication. It can be different. How we grasp phonics can be different. How we grasp, comprehension can be different, right? So I'm okay with having, a lot of students with different IEPs. At the end of the day, is the classroom structured in a fashion that will allow me to cater to each student's IEP? Right. So that's really where the issue comes into play. So if Mr. Mason, he has 20 kids, but his classroom is not structured in a way that he can cater to each student's IEP, well, his classroom is not going to be that effective. Right. It's not anything against Mr. Mason. It's just that, he's got to cater to 20 different individual students. But anyway, so my point is this, that parental support and then structuring the curriculum such that by third grade, if every kid from third grade, if they could read at a fourth or fifth grade level, if they knew math, at a fifth grade level, then when they get to middle school, they're not going to be, or better yet, when they get to high school, chances are they're not going to drop out, because they're going to have the strong enough foundation to really kind of churn through that difficult time, right? And that, if they have the parental support as well, that also helps with that encouragement, helps with them identifying resources to take advantage or to advance when they get stuck or anything in any of those natures. So, I think Mr. Daniels and Mr. Mason, kind of combining their, what they stated and create that as one big solution. I think that's what we need, and I think at the end of the day, when we think about that, what happens is this. In turn, it will also help the parents. We think about, I'm from Baltimore City. I'm born and raised in Baltimore City. Most of my students that we work with are from Baltimore City. And I think about how many parents, because they don't know how to support their child because they don't remember the algebra or they don't remember, reading Hamlet or Macbeth and all this stuff. Like they don't necessarily know how to help them. Well, if we can put them in this environment, then they kind of, if they have any younger children, now they're in a better position to help those younger children based on what they did with their older children and so forth. So I think Mr. Daniels and Mr. Mason, I think they touched on at least the issues that I feel as though are extremely important. And to me, they would have a much longer benefit, towards, to overall success for our students.
Awesome. So all the school leaders out there, again, make sure that parental involvement and engagement and student engagement is so important.
That's true.
All right. So, Mr. Jones, you're doing the work. Oh, Mr. Daniels, I'm sorry. You wanted to.
I had something. This may have to be a topic for a whole nother village cast. One of the things, if I see to be a problem as we sit here today, how are we going to help our children regain the 2 years of educational growth that they lost due to virtual instruction? Now, you've got that pot of money. We had to talk about this later, but this is my second stint in high school, and I'm watching basically seventh graders come to high school.
That's what they are, yes.
And it is amazing. But if there's something out that needs to be solved, We need to figure out how our children can regain back that 2 years they lost during virtual instruction. And I yield back my time.
Thank you. Dr. Jones, I think we skipped Dr. Jones. I'm sorry. Dr. Jones, and then I'll go to Mr. Jones and we can start to wrap up.
Okay, so I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm at the end. So yes, the parents, as far as foundation, absolutely. Parents have to learn how to. You can figure out how to make a baby, but how do you raise a baby? Whole other conversation. And what does school look like? It's a whole other conversation. The other piece, looking at making sure that it's purposeful and useful. That's my thing. I'm about access. My background is special education, and I look at the gamut. So I'm looking at gifted. I'm looking at kids who have severe emotional behavior needs, kids who are not vocalizing, getting those kids that access as far as communicating appropriately, like all of those things matter. So my biggest thing is how do we make sure that school is purposeful and that everything they do is leading to something purposeful that they care about, right, and something purposeful that gives them movement. I tell kids all the time, okay, so you didn't know ratios, right? And ratios is something we do 7th grade. That's important to me. You need to know that. Everyone needs it. If you want to be a hairdresser, you better know ratios, because if you don't know how to do my collar and my collar come out color, we're gonna have a problem. So my science and my chemistry is important for every. I have to find a way to connect everything I want to teach to something they care about. And so making sure it's accessible as far as what they understand and why it's important, providing the why, because I was that kid. Turn up. Again, that was me all the way. It's real. I'm a girl. I got away with murder. Thank God I was a woman. So making sure it's purposeful so that kids can get it, making sure it's accessible. We're not counting kids out. Too often we see a child that's not vocalizing and we decide they don't know anything. We mess around and give this kid a keyboard or a talker, and they're a poet. They're telling you about math. They're telling you about history. They're telling you about how things work on the inside. So we have to find ways to connect with all children. So that's my biggest thing, is creating access through technology or through experiences, and making sure that kids are doing things that are purposeful to their ongoing or long-term goals.
Oh, that was big. That was deep. All right. So, Mr. Jones, again, I'm looking at all of the men that's on our panel. And that is one of the problems that I see, is that we don't have enough men, and especially African-American males, in the classroom or even in the school, period. So I want to hear from Mr. Jones, how can we get more men to come into education as well? Can you call your brothers, hey, call in all cues, become a teacher? What can we do? Because many of us said our founders were educators, but now we can't get people to sign up to become teachers. So Mr. Jones, solve that problem for us. How can we find more Mr. Jones, more Dr. Ryans, more Mr. Daniels, more Mr. Mason?
I wish I could solve that problem, but what is lacking is the effort. What's lacking is the push to really go the extra mile to really recruit. And I'm going to stick with recruiting Black males, going to HBCUs, going into the communities and starting there and looking at individuals in terms of what's the root, what's their interest, how can we develop you as an educator? We have a lot of students that have raw talent, and they're good with, like right now, we're mentoring students right now, and they don't even know the skills and the passion that they have, and they automatically are going. Our 8th graders are automatically going and mentoring our kindergarten students and don't even realize what they're doing. When I was an administrator in high school, same thing happened. We have individuals that just have that natural ability and compassion to really uplift other individuals. We have to make sure that we're paying attention to those kind of things. Wow. We have to also make it enticing. We have to stop presenting education as if this, we talk so much about prison pipeline mentality, but as educators, and I'm going to throw it out there because we family here, right? Absolutely. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that we got to put it out there, because oftentimes as Black educators, we're putting education out there is that we're working in the prison system, that we're so miserable, in this field. So if we're presenting it as if we're so miserable, then how do you think we're going to get passionate individuals to actually embark upon this field that I am so passionate and I'm enjoying being a part? Has it been a struggle? Absolutely. It's not an easy field, not at all. But if you're in it to win it and it's your purpose, then you're going to actually deal with the lumps and the bumps and bruises, because at the end of the day, when you see the success of your youth, those bumps and bruises are going to go down, because that's actually the solvent, for those bumps and bruises, and seeing the efforts in the production of the students that you're dealing with. So that's the effort that needs to happen across the board, no matter what school it is, whether it's in the urban school districts, whether it's in the suburban school districts. It needs to happen. We have to make sure that we talk so much about DEI now in our schools, but we're not seeing a lot of DEI in our schools right now. So in those recruiting efforts, that DEI has to make sure that it shines right now. So I'm looking, to immerse myself in not just in the Propel School District, but I'm always about looking at diversity and recruiting students to get into this field, whatever it is. If it's not education, allow it to be service to students, service to people in some capacity, because again, more of us are needed in this area. They need to see us.
Yeah, love it. Definitely need it. So we're about to wrap up. Unfortunately, we can go on and on for hours. However, so what I would like for everyone to do is, again, give your shout outs, but also, after you give your shout outs, please give us your final thoughts, your final tip or advice. All right. So again, we can start with the baby of the bunch. It relates to, joining the D9. That's what I mean. But Dr. Jones, can you give us, your shout outs and then also your final thoughts or tips?
So my shout outs, I want to shout out the Baltimore chapter, Baltimore Alumni Metropolitan chapter, as well as the Pittsburgh Alumni chapter. Amazing women in both places. And of course, the wonderful women men and women, just the people I love at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. That was mostly for Rosalind. As we're talking about, it's about unity, it's about relationships, it's about community. And so regardless if you're a part of the Divine Nine, you're a Black person in America, and we don't have the time or the privilege to ignore one another's needs, because we're in need, and I can't be free and I can't be happy if my people are not well.
All right.
Love it.
All right. And Dr. Curtis.
Yep. Well,
shout out and final thoughts.
All right, shout out to all of my sorors of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Sigma Beta chapter at campus at Alabama A&M University, Beta Zeta chapter, Washington, D.C., Gamma Delta Zeta, Cleveland, Ohio, Nu Xi Zeta, Cleveland, Ohio, Omicron Phi Zeta, also Washington, D.C. Got to shout out all my sorors. And I will say this, shout out to the AKAs. I would not be the instructor, the educator that I am today if it wasn't for a wonderful woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha. Got to shout her out. Dr. Olivia Harris Sanders was my academic advisor, and she saw something in me that I did not see in myself. To my best friends from the campus of Alabama A&M that are members of Delta Sigma Theta, as well as Alpha Kappa Alpha, I want to shout out my old college room dog. I had to go behind the building and get that eye before. I didn't want to do it, but I had to do it. Katrina Hale, and also Michelle Harris, and the rest of you all. You know I love you. My final thought is this. We say that we're about helping the community. Sometimes, and I'm saying this, fratters, sorors, sometimes you got to bring the community to the people. I have done that, and I will say this, one quick example. When I taught in Washington, D.C., food stamps don't come because Thanksgiving is coming. The first of the month is the first of the month. And I had my sorors fix up Thanksgiving dinner every year that I was in there. And the parents really got into that. The kids appreciated it. And I'm talking turkey, dressing, greens, all of mac and cheese. Then the parents started wanting to bring in, no Black gathering is good without the mac and tuna salad. So they started bringing that too. So, get the community out there. Those of us that are educators, you got to bring the community to your sorority sisters and your fraternity brothers. And with that, I thank you for this opportunity, Dr. Gaskins. Hopefully you'll present it to me again.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Curtis. And Dr. Ryan, your shout outs and final thoughts.
Again, thank you for having me. I do want to shout out my wife, Antonika Ryan. She's a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated by way of Beta Tau chapter at Morgan State University. So they're in the midst of celebrating their centennial. And
That's
so
right.
they're having, of course, got to shout out the frat, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, all my brothers out there, especially my home chapter, Beta Alpha chapter at Morgan State, and the chapter that I have matured in, which is Beta Alpha Lambda chapter in Baltimore County. One of the last thing, my final thought is this, with our students, regardless of where they are in their educational career, there's really only two things they can control. They can control their attitude and they can control their effort, right? And I believe that it's up to us, that serves as their mentors, that serves as their teachers, their coaches, their administrators, and so forth. I think it's really up to us to make sure that we're a depiction of that. So that when we show up, our attitude is where it needs to be, our effort is where it needs to be, so that it begins to roll off and influence how they go about their day. And so, again, I thank you for having us. And that's my final thought. Let us control our attitude and effort, because that's really the only thing we can control each and every day.
Love it. Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, my trying to get down there to that mute key. I first of all, I think my biggest shout out, I'm gonna shout out God, because he's brought me back from a place that when people go there and we tell our story, it's the truth, because I had a bout of cancer at the beginning of the year. So to come from that and to be healed at this moment, I am more than thankful. And I give praise every single day for being able to get up on my feet. I want to give a shout out to the brothers, all the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, to Alpha Gamma chapter, my line brothers, and Ron Jones. I'm looking because my roommate, he was educated too in college, and he's a member of Omega Psi Phi. So big ups to all of the illustrious educators in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. If I did have to give a final thought, I think about Luke chapter 11, verse 23. If you aren't with me, you're against me. If you're not working with me, you're working against me. And we as servant leaders have to have an understanding that this is collegial, and we all must come together and work to improve upon our craft and those who come into this craft, and help them to grow so that our children do not get left behind. And I say our children because I speak specifically, having worked in DC public schools forever, and then finally moving on and coming to serve my community. I see differences, and I want you to know that now that I'm in a suburban area, I want all of us to have an understanding that every child, under every circumstance and every situation, needs us. And whatever it is that we need to do, we need to put our hands out. And when it comes time for us to sit down, like Dr. Curtis says, he got 5 years and I got 5 years. When it comes time to sit down, we need to be able to be looked upon to give that information to those who will come up behind us and say, like, hey, don't fret. It's hard. And like Ron said, it's a struggle. Every bump and bruise along the way is going to make and mature you and to help you be the best educator you can. So that's my final thoughts.
Thank you. Mr. Mason, shout outs and final thoughts, sir.
Good afternoon, good evening. So let's see, I would like to shout out the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, especially the lovely ladies of the Alpha Gamma chapter. I don't think I would have graduated from the most illustrious Morgan State University. So also got to shout out the Bears. And I want to shout out just all of the educators who go to work every day. And as we all know, and as the Dr. Curtis said, this is definitely a calling. You have to be some sort of special to do this. And just, just to all of our students who come to school every day and they just want to have a better life and they're just trying it. So, my final thought would probably be that be the change that you want to see, and go into schools. As my mentor told me, be that person that kids come to, be that it person, and whatever that is, be that for them. So make sure that we're innovative and making sure that, like Dr. Ryan said, I believe that everyone should have an IEP because we all learn differently. Like my dope nuke right here said, we have to bring our parents into the building, make them feel comfortable. Like Ron Jones said, but then we got to bring in more Black men. But how do we do that? Let's make them feel comfortable and understand that you can thrive in education. And that is one of the best places because you're actually giving back every day. And you're making a change in the life of a child that needs you. And so therefore, it's such a rewarding experience. So as my brother said, when you get those bruises, and you're going to have that in any career, whether you're in finance, whether you're in banking or whatever you're doing, you're going to have those bruises. But when you change the life of a child and you then see them flourish and then you see them grow, that is the most rewarding experience. I just sit back and think some days about where my students were and where I see them now. And a lot of them are like fathers and they're in their careers and they're like, yo, Mr. Mason, you were like the best teacher. And at that time, and as we all know, especially as Black men, we never get the great kids, and that's cool. And I love that because in those classes, you got those poets, you got those creative kids. I do a production every year, The Wiz, just because I think it's the greatest musical play. These are the misfit kids, and people are like, yo, that production was off the hook. They make their costumes, we rewrite the scripts and everything. So yes, because you never took that opportunity to just get into that child and figure out what it is, why they come to school. Like D. Curtis said, they may be hungry. So guess what? If you need that 20 minutes in the back to eat, go ahead, do what you need to do. You need more, we need to take something home. Whatever it is that you need, we're gonna do that. And let's look at the whole child and make sure that as the village comes together, we make sure that they have everything they need. So just be the change that you want to see, and however you need to do that, and don't complain, because in the end, you will be blessed abundantly. And it's just the best experience that you'll ever have.
All right. Mr. Jones, shout out and final thought.
All right, thank you. First, I actually definitely want to shout out this platform right here. I know I came late, but I'm really blessed to really be a part of this and to really see, even though we may be from different organizations, from what I'm hearing tonight, we are all like-minded. So I'm really just shouting that out, and it's really uplifting my spirit to really see this, because there's a lot of work to be done in terms of what we're doing right now. So definitely I want to shout that out. Thank you all for that. Definitely I'm going to shout out the brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Huge shout out to the chapter that I was birthed, which is Beta Chapter, the Lincoln University. And definitely I have to, be in Western Pennsylvania, have to shout out our Phi chapter of Omega Psi Phi in the work, because we're talking about community, and a lot of the things that we're doing here in the community is all about that. And I hope that this platform that I'm seeing right now can be a platform that really we can go not just in education, but even our service to community, that we can come together and do this on that level as well. So definitely, I appreciate that, and I hope we can do that. Final thought, I'm going to try not to extend my final thought too long, but definitely when Mr. Daniels actually started speaking about kind of the latency in learning that our students have for the past 2 years, it's almost like he was in my head, because I was thinking the exact same thing at the exact same time that he said, and I mean that, at the exact same time that he said that. And that's something that we can't glance we can't just gloss over because we have our students back in our school buildings. That's huge. That's a huge opening and missing link right now for our students, not just academically, but socially and emotionally. And we have to figure out as educators, as leaders, how we are going to really continue to tap into those areas that have been lost. Our students have seen a lot. There's a lot of additional trauma that has occurred amongst our students in these past 2 years. And we cannot forget that. It really boils down to the 3 R's. Us and educators know what that is. And most of the times what those 3 R's actually equate to is we have to make sure that we're building relationships, making our engagement with students relevant, and then the rigor will come after that. If you don't get that in place, any learning that's going to happen if those first 2 are not in place. So I know that was kind of some buzzwords and some jargon, so I don't get long-winded. I want to actually close right there and give it back to the facilitators of the night. But again, thank you all. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Great. Listen, I want to shout out our panel.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for, just bringing it tonight. And, although we're celebrating and saluting our founders and our organizations, you guys brought your A game.
Yes.
You gave us something to think about as far as how to really solve these problems, right? And making it really relevant to what we're seeing as far as the issues in education. And, celebrating the fact that we're all leaders in education as well. So I salute our panel. Thank you so much for joining the village. Thank you. That was good. That was too good. So again, salute to all of our amazing Divine Nine organizations, all of our educators and school leaders.
Keep serving, guys. Keep serving.
They are showing up.
And showing out. Like we do.
Exactly. So I would like to give a shout out to the Alpha Gamma chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and that is at the Morgan State University.
Yeah. I love y'all.
And your final shout out?
My final shout out, of course, is to the Omicron Delta chapter at Bennett College. And just to my big sister. Because she got us all here, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Oh, I forgot. And the Fort Washington Alumni chapter as well. That's not currently active. So again, guys, thank you so much for joining the Village. Continue to show up on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the Village LG. So continue to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, teacher leadership is a mindset, not a position. See you next time.